You have some breaking news out of Dubai regarding the U.S. consulate.
Yeah, let me give you an update on that. It has now been confirmed that the U.S. consulate in Dubai, in Al Seif, the diplomatic enclave in Dubai, was targeted by an Iranian drone. That drone was intercepted by UAE military systems, which intercepted that drone. But as a result, some debris and shrapnel fell down to the ground in the vicinity of the US consulate, causing a pretty large explosion there. A lot of fire, a lot of smoke has been billowing out of the consulate for the last hour, hour and a half or so, and we've now had it confirmed that that US consulate in Dubai has been targeted by an Iranian drone. Now, it was my understanding that that consulate had been cleared of all diplomatic staff. They had evacuated the consulate over the last day or day and a half or so, following advice from the US. But clearly, this is now a signal from Iran targeting not only the military assets in the region, but also embassies and consulates. We saw earlier today the US embassy in Riyadh was targeted. Again, debris falling down in the area and causing damage and destruction to the US embassy in Riyadh. We know the embassy in Kuwait has been targeted as well. And now this evening, the US consulate in Dubai has been targeted by a drone from Iran. Debris has fallen from that drone after the UAE missile systems intercepted it, and that debris has caused a minor explosion, some fire, smoke in that vicinity. The Dubai Media Office tonight confirming that. They've said that Dubai has succeeded in extinguishing a limited fire in the vicinity of the US consulate in Dubai, resulting from a drone targeting operation. They said that this incident did not result in any injuries, which would make sense given that consulate had been evacuated of diplomatic staff. However, this is a significant moment because we've seen a number of attacks coming into Dubai and Abu Dhabi over the last few days, ever since this war began, when the US and Israel joint struck Iran. And ever since then, Iran has been targeting the Gulf states, as we know. Here in Dubai, we've seen a number of attacks, and this now is the latest, a targeted attack to the US consulate, which has seen some disruption and destruction due to debris falling down from that drone.
What are these drone strikes doing to the Arab nations across the Mideast, including there in the UAE?
Well, they're hugely impactful. We've seen hundreds and hundreds of Iranian drones flying into the Gulf, targeting various assets. Yesterday and early on today, we saw a huge targeting of energy and oil facilities across the Gulf, here in the UAE as well. Some actually hitting and causing damage and destruction, but also beyond the drones, a number of drones, there have also been ballistic missiles, those weapons flying into the UAE as well, and so and the wider Gulf. And so the Gulf has been on high alert over the last few days, and those military defense mechanisms have been working overtime over the last few days to intercept a lot of these missiles and drones. We know fighter jets have been up in the air, particularly the UAE telling us today, the Ministry of Defense, that they've had to combat with some of these drones and weapons with fighter jets in the air, shooting them down. It's been a heavy operation for many of the Gulf states, especially here in the UAE. I think the big question is how did some debris manage to come out of this drone and fall directly at the US consulate? Of course, that would have been the target by Iran, knowing full well as well that there weren't any embassy or diplomatic staff, consulate general staff inside the consulate at the time. But this is a big moment because it does give us a signal of the direction that Iran wants to go into, firstly with Saudi Arabia and Riyadh, then Kuwait, and now the consulate here in Dubai.
Yeah, so you have those three nations who are in this war, regardless of whether they wanted to be a part of it or not, having to take defensive stances within their own countries. You told me earlier that the UAE was sending a delegation to Israel. What is your understanding about the likelihood or the desire, or I guess the inevitability, of these Gulf nations not only getting involved defensively, but also getting involved on the attack within Iran?
Katie, look, we know the UAE has a very open relationship with Israel. It has done probably the only Gulf state which has got a strong relationship as the UAE does. So yes, there was a high-level delegation that landed in Tel Aviv this evening. It's my understanding, and I think what will be the conversation there? Most probably to ask Israel to potentially back down some, so the Iranian strikes also back down here to the UAE and the wider Gulf. But there will also be discussions around Lebanon. Of course, that is a big point in this war now that's emerged over the last 36 hours. I think they'll discuss defense capabilities. Obviously, there's been a lot of cooperation around defense capabilities. We saw France saying that they were ready to step up and get involved today as well. So I think that will be on the agenda, and coordination around defense capabilities. And then I think there's three scenarios that they will potentially be discussing between the UAE and Israel. Who's going to be in power in Iran, and how are Israel going to deal with that? And what will the Gulf nations do in response to that? What about regime change? If that happens, then how will they respond to that? And also regime collapse, which will probably be seen as a bit of a Pandora's box. And I think that's the main conversation that the UAE delegation, a senior delegation, will be having tonight with Israel in Tel Aviv. But obviously, I'm sure this will now be on the agenda as well, this Iranian strike to the Consulate General in Dubai. Yes, no staff were there. We believe they had evacuated, but the shrapnel, the debris from the drone that Iran launched and was intercepted by the UAE defense mechanisms, causing damage, causing fire and huge plumes of smoke at that consulate in Dubai.